and I have a mandate. Let's talk about your mandate every Thursday on the program, The Mandate. Brought to you by ZT Communications in partnership with the Taraba State Broadcasting Service, TSBS Jalingo. For sponsorship and advert placement, please call 0803 454 0469. The Mandate, a path to good governance. Hello, welcome to another edition of the program, The Mandate. The Mandate is that platform where we listen to chief executives, heads of government parastatals, and even private organizations tell us what their mandate is, and of course, particularly how that mandate impacts on the society. Join me again today on the program as I bring to you one of the heads of the government for Taraba State Government here, who will tell us what his mandate is and how that mandate impacts on the society. Like I always remind us, if you call this a good governance program, you won't be far from it, because it does ensure that we bring government right at your doorsteps. Wait, after this break, you will get to meet my guest. Don't go nowhere. You and I have a mandate. Let's talk about your mandate every Thursday on the program, The Mandate. Brought to you by ZT Communications in partnership with the Taraba State Broadcasting Service, TSBS Jalingo. For sponsorship and advert placement, please call 0803 454 0469. The Mandate, a path to good governance. Alright, welcome back from that short break. If you're just joining us, this is The Mandate here on TSBS and as well as on our online platform, ZT Online News, on www.ztonline.com. And today, like I did say before now, we have a special guest on the program who will tell us what his mandate is and how that mandate impacts on the society. Now join me as I welcome the Commissioner, Special Duties and Humanitarian Affairs for Taraba State, Mr. Taninga Binga. You're welcome on the program, sir.
Thank you.
All right, sir. As usual, we'll begin by asking, what's your mandate?
Well, I thank you for this opportunity. As the title depicts, my ministry is charged with special duties and also humanitarian affairs. And you will agree with me that this is a responsibility that is quite timely, in the sense that we are in a very difficult time in the country, in fact in the whole world. As a result of that, we have so many challenges, both human and natural, and therefore the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry is charged with trying to intervene in areas of disaster management, in areas of provision of palliatives to those that are really challenged, those that are taking care of our internally displaced persons, trying to work out modalities for returning them to areas from where they were displaced. And we also tackled issues bordering on natural disasters like floods and fire outbreaks, and even not quite natural, but communal crisis. So the ministry as a whole is one that is supposed to take care of some of the challenges that have cropped up in recent times. They've always existed, but they appear to be more prominent these days. And the special duties aspect of it is very broad-based. It's up to His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Taraba State, whenever he deems and wherever he deems necessary for me to be involved. It is up to him, and on several occasions he has dispatched me to do one or two things on behalf of Taraba State Government. Basically, I would leave the definition of our mandate at this point.
Well, that alone is a huge task, if you ask me. Like you did point out, there are lots of needs in the humanitarian sphere of our lives all over the world, and especially here in Taraba State. But fortunately, we can even say we are grateful to God to have been one of the most peaceful states in the Northeast so far. But that's not to say we do not have pockets of these issues that still demand humanitarian service. You have IDPs scattered across almost every local government in Taraba here. You have issues of flooding, people displaced, and now communal clashes. How are you able to fit in, to intervene in this enormous area of the humanitarian aspect of your mandate?
Well, to start with, we are happy to have a very compassionate chief executive of the state who has taken it upon himself to ensure that wherever we have challenges, especially pertaining to communal clashes and the like, he makes sure that there are interventions to ensure that we ameliorate the sufferings of all the people involved. Now, you know that at the moment, the state government, in fact, the national economy, if not the world economy, is in a kind of, I don't want to say recession, but it's not as bright as it used to be. So there are challenges of funding. But luckily also, we have so many other bodies that have been intervening here.
Okay.
We have like the Northeast Development Commission.
Okay.
We have the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs in Abuja. We have the NEMA, the National Emergency Management Agency,
Okay.
and other donor agencies that have been assisting us along with the efforts of the state government to ensure that wherever we have such challenges, we have a few things we can do to help those that are suffering as a result of the ethnic clashes or if you talk of flooding. Only recently, only about not quite a week ago, there was an intervention, a collaboration between NEMA and the state government, wherein quantity of roofing sheets, cement, and some palliatives were given out to some targeted families that were affected by the past flooding that took place. And also we have seen interventions where there have been communal clashes and people are displaced, and effort is made to take care of them within the IDPs. But the greatest effort has been our concern about returning these people back to the areas from where they were displaced. And it's not an easy task, because some of the issues that drove them from their areas are not within the powers of the state government to solve. Because as you are very much aware, His Excellency, the Executive Governor, is the Chief Executive, the Chief Security Officer in Taraba State. Yet, he doesn't command any force, any special forces that he can use to intervene whenever there are needs. And you know that we have frequency of armers headers clashes, and we have the problem of these bandits. I prefer to call them bandits that attack communities. Now, these are not within our control. That is why His Excellency has been very vocal in calling for state police and to ask that more powers be given to state governors to be able to manage the security in their states. Now, where I'm headed is that even though we get palliatives, we get interventions from all over the place, the greatest intervention would be to establish a peace mechanism that would ensure that people don't get surprise attacks, so that they can go back to their places where they eke out their livings. All these people are basically farmers and traders and the like. And if they are able to go back to their original places, then government doesn't have to worry too much, because they can go to farm. Agric has been providing fertilizer, has been providing improved seedlings and the like. And they can farm and take care of themselves. But as long as we keep them in IDPs and elsewhere, it's a very huge challenge, and it's not easy for us in Taraba State. For instance, I can tell you, apart from the issue of IDPs, we have over 32,000 internally displaced persons in Taraba State at the moment. But worse still, we have refugees in Taraba State.
Refugees?
Refugees.
From where now?
Principally from the Cameroons, because of the crisis they have there. A lot of them have flooded about 4 or 5 of our local governments: Sardauna, Kurmi, Usa, Taku. These areas have a huge quantity of refugees, and all this, the state government has been involved in seeing to their well-being, of course, with the appreciable assistance of donor agencies like the USAID, like the UNICEF, and the like. So it's quite a huge task. And I must say, of course, that we've been fairly equal to the task.
Fairly equal to the task, you say there, but I can imagine what impact that would make if you have this large number of persons displaced from their original homes and their livelihood as well. As much as you provide interventions and all of that, how are you able to tackle the issue of getting these persons maybe get a subsistent livelihood in the time being while you're waiting to get the peace process you did talk about restored at these communities, to be able to resettle them back into their communities?
Yeah, efforts have been made in the area of provision of educational facilities to take care of their young school-age children.
At those IDP camps?
Not at IDP. Okay, I'm talking about the refugees in particular.
Okay.
But even at IDP camps, those that are within areas where there are schools, effort is made for them to be enrolled in schools while they await a return to their areas from where they came. And also, principally, especially in the case of herders and farmers, we have learned with the assistance of PACT West Africa, in collaboration with United States Agency for International Development. There has been a pilot project in Taraba State for the past 2 years, which unfortunately will terminate in about a month's time, in March. A lot of intervention has taken place in 4 targeted local governments, involving about 10 communities, where they have set up the modalities for peaceful coexistence between farmers and herders. And they have ways of resolving their conflicts, and we've made a big amount of progress in that area, and the effort is to see about expanding it to all the 16 local governments. 4 local governments are involved. We want the other 12 local governments to also benefit from it. Government is working in that direction with the assistance of foreign donor agencies. So I believe that efforts have also been made to train some of these displaced people and refugees to how to equip them, to teach them some trades.
Okay, like skill acquisition.
Skill acquisition. We've been involved in that. A lot of them have been drawn into this kind of program so that they are able to learn ways of surviving while they are here. And it's a process that even when they live here, they go wherever they go with that training, with that skill. So these are some of the areas that intervention is taking place.
Wonderful, laudable there, if you ask me. Even with the issue of paucity of funds to be able to carry out much as what you would have, the government would have wanted to do, better to lessen the suffering of these persons. But again, another worrisome issue is the fact that how do you track to check the quality of these items and to be sure that these items would get to the targeted persons? Like you did mention, NEMA made a contribution of some items to be distributed to those who were affected by the 2020 flooding in Taraba State. What's the channel of distribution to ensure that these things get in the right hands at the end of the day?
Well, in the first place, before NEMA brings in anything, they do their groundwork. They come into these communities, they identify households, and it's clearly mapped out. We know that when these materials reach a particular community or local government, there are specific households to which they will be distributed. And NEMA doesn't just do that by sending it to the chairman in the local government areas. It sends its own staff to accompany it, along with the staff of our Taraba State Emergency Management Agency. They accompany these goods to the port, to the point of distribution. I must point out, though, that with the advent of this NSAS protests, it appears that it has become the norm now. At any point you bring anything to share to anybody, just any number of hooligans can just dash to that place and see how they can help themselves to these matters. And because of this, extensive use has been made of security personnel, the police, the civil defense, and sometimes even the army, to ensure that these items get to the people to whom it is meant. So a lot of effort has been made, and there has been follow-up. In fact, they accompany the goods to the point of delivery.
Just to ensure they get to the target persons.
Yes.
Well, quite disappointing there if you ask me. And that brings me to the next question now. The NSAS protests. As the Commissioner for Special Duties and someone who handles most of these items that were carted away, kept for people who their suffering should be a little bit reduced. How did it come to you?
It was a huge shock and a disappointment. In fact, it appears that we underestimated the level of, I don't want to say it's of discontent, of hooliganism in the country. Because the NSAS movement was a very laudable one, but clearly it was hijacked by some criminal elements. And we suffered immensely from these attacks, because not only were the warehouses destroyed, or not only were the
items
scattered away, the warehouses have been destroyed. So even now, it's very difficult to attract any assistance, because even
where will you even keep them?
Even where to keep them is a challenge. But we have learned a few lessons too, and we are really collaborating with the army, the police, civil defense, other security agencies to ensure that these items are not pilfered. Once they are brought, we secure it, and when we are distributing, there's enough show of force to show that we mean business, that they must get to the target population.
And in good time as well.
And very good time.
So that you avoid the issue.
Because of that too, we have learned not to delay in keeping them. The other time that we had those challenges, it wasn't as if we didn't want to distribute them, but the reason was that some of the items were yet to arrive. And because of logistical considerations, you can't go to one town twice. It's the same transport.
Sure.
So you wait, you hope everything will be on ground, and then, of course, those people who supply them, they want to be involved. They come and flag it off. You can't do it without them. And thereafter, you begin to consider how to distribute them.
Sure.
So those are some of the reasons that caused the delays that allowed them to find anything in our warehouses. Because those items would have gone to those who should have them about 2 months earlier. We would have done that. But we had to wait for those supplying them, the COVID people, to come and flag it off. And then the quantity they told us they had on ground were not exactly on ground. Some were still being awaited. So we tried to give a little time for it to arrive, and in the process, that unfortunate incident took place.
Well, it was quite unfortunate,
Very unfortunate,
so to speak. But again, those were also indigenes of Taraba State, so we cannot say they are a segment to be waived off. What's in your mandate now to correct that ill of a segment of your society that has that kind of mindset, so we don't have a reoccurrence in future in Taraba State, for instance?
This is a very fundamental issue that you cannot address overnight, but it has to do with the issue of getting the youths to be meaningfully engaged, whether it is in learning trades, which this government has done very much about, providing trainings in skill acquisition. Did almost 4 batches of that, and we have very good results all over the place. But we still need to do very much more. Get this youth away from the streets, get them to be meaningfully engaged. And it appears to me that the easiest way we would have done that would be in the area of agriculture. But unfortunately, we are challenged by the problem of bandits and then headers and other criminal elements, which makes it very difficult for government to get these youths, apportion to them lands to go and cultivate, because some are afraid of being kidnapped and so on and so forth. But ultimately, I think the goal will be for us to see how, beginning from our secondary schools, we begin to train our students with the view, not necessarily that they will be graduates. We should be able to know after secondary education whether one should go to a technical school, whether one should learn a particular trade, because we cannot continue to produce graduates that we cannot employ. But even if we have to produce them, we have to prepare their mindsets. They should be able, upon graduation, to be able to meaningfully engage themselves without government employing them.
White collar jobs.
Not white collar job. They should be able to, government may subsidize the takeoff of some little businesses they have learned, so that you find a graduate maybe with 500,000, he may be able to engage 10 other people in a small cottage industry or a small business, trading business or whatever. But we have to work towards getting more people to be independent, not to depend on government employment, so that we will be sure that not too many idle people are roaming around. Of course, we have to deal with some that no matter what you do with them, they are criminals.
That's the reorientation I wanted to ask you about.
Yes.
How about reorientation of mindsets of some of these youngsters who already have these criminal, very strong criminal tendencies in their minds?
Well, this is an issue that really needs to be addressed. I'm not about to profile any particular solution to that. Perhaps there are some professionals, some psychologists and other professionals that can do something about it, if you can get them together to be in one place and begin to work on them. But really, something needs to be done about it, because they are part of the problem. Because a lot of the people who were involved in this criminality under normal circumstances wouldn't do it. But because the criminal elements were already in the forefront, they found it was like a bonanza for them. Everybody just went there. Some are not really criminals, but because they saw the opportunity, they went and did it. So after taking care of these ones, we, as you have rightly pointed out, we need to work on the criminal elements and see what we can do, reorientate them.
Wonderful. Glad to hear you explain what your mandate is and how it actually impacts on the society. We've been talking with the Commissioner Special Duty and Humanitarian Affairs of Taraba State Government, Mr. Taninga Bimga, and he has assured us that well, as much as we have crises on ground here in Taraba State, there are efforts to touch lives and mitigate the suffering of the persons who have been affected. That's a way of winding down on the program. What will be your message generally to Tarabans as we continue to enjoy good governance?
I must appeal to Tarabans to exercise more patience and to be law-abiding and to be their brothers' keepers, because there are a few that are still managing okay, and they should not ignore those that are really suffering. Whatever they can do to help them to survive, they should do it. We are in a very difficult time, and if there is no law and order, His Excellency has always said it, without peace there will be no development. If you give us peace, you will get development. So we need people to be more law-abiding, to shun communal conflicts, religious and otherwise, to ensure that they work bearing in mind that this state belongs to all of us, and we need to put all hands on deck to cooperate with government. Criticisms should be the kind that will make government to improve, not just to condemn government for the sake of condemnation, to be able to talk. If you will proffer some solutions, do so in a manner that will guide government to help the citizens of this state. Government is doing well. Government is facing a lot of challenges, but if the citizens of the state recognize the challenges, what we are going through, and they cooperate with government, I'm sure that we will see that light which is at the end of this tunnel.
Wonderful. A nice way to wrap it up on the program today. Thank you so much, sir, for your time and explaining your mandate here on the program.
You're welcome.
That's how much we take on the program today. But of course, to join us again for another enlightening package of the program, The Mandate, I'm yours sincerely, Iwe Sekunde Enoch. Thanks for listening and be good. You and I have a mandate. Let's talk about your mandate every Thursday on the program, The Mandate. Brought to you by ZT Communications in partnership with the Taraba State Broadcasting Service, TSBS Jalingo. For sponsorship and advert placement, please call 0803 454 0469. The Mandate, a path to good governance.
They gonna lead us well. Don't let this nation to fall inside well. Fall inside well. Fall inside well. Fall inside.